Welcome, everyone, to this session of Administrator Issues and Updates, May 6, 2025. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, would you please call the roll for us?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Roll call. Commissioner Schrader is out of the office today. Roll call. Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Commissioner West.
Here.
Chair Roberts.
Here. Right, thank you. Gary, would you please introduce the first agenda item?
Yes, first is a legislative update on State Senate Bill 974, which is a land use bill. Tonya Holowetsky, Director of Public and Government Affairs, and Trent Wilson, Government Affairs Manager, will give you an update. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. We're here this morning to provide an update on Senate Bill 974 related to land use application timelines. Clackamas County opposed the original bill when it was introduced in the Senate because it reduced the timeline for taking final action on a land use application for the development of single-family dwelling from 120 to 45 days. The details of our concerns are in the county's policy position submitted on March 12th and in your packet. The bill has since been amended to extend the timeline from 45 to 90 days. The timeline pauses if the applicant is required to make revisions and may be extended by mutual agreement of the parties. The amendment also incorporated recommendations from the Association of Oregon Counties and most technical suggestions raised by Clackamas County. The bill has passed the Senate floor and is now with the House Committee. From Clackamas County's position, the bill still includes concerning language and ramifications, including the 90-day engineering timeline, financial liability if the county misses a deadline for land use and engineering, prohibition on siting and design standards for certain residential developments, and the continued erosion of local land use control. The bill had a public hearing yesterday. Commissioner Savas was slated to testify but was unable to because the discussion ran overtime and was scheduled for next week. So that is our update, and we're open for any questions or comments.
All right, thank you. Questions, colleagues? Commissioner Savas, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I attended because listening to the conversation really spurred a lot of thoughts. And so I think the one thing that's in that bill that really we ought to be concerned about is that if we're in violation of not getting the 90-day clock, then we are subject to paying the engineering fees, which could be exorbitant. We're to cover their costs. I think there were some nuances to that where they might limit it to just maybe the issues in question, but nonetheless, that's a problem. I have a problem with that. And want to thank, Trent, I know you tried to shorten my words so I was going to read the script and then say I'd really like to make some extra comments, but here's what was going in my head is that after listening to all of that, and it was good, it was great. I'm glad there's some of the state legislators there have local government experience, so I felt really good about that. It was kind of reassuring. But, I have been on both sides. Oddly enough, maybe the only person in the room, I don't know, maybe the only person in the room that actually has been an applicant wearing a county hat, let alone a private sector hat. So I've been, one water treatment plant, had to get permits through the county, two wastewater, one complete wastewater, or three wastewater rehabilitation applications with entanglements with the city, right, which was a 25-year dispute with the city of Milwaukee, which got resolved. Libraries, parks, and the courthouse. But most importantly, what's relevant to this is our applications that we have historically made for housing. Why was the Hillside project delayed for all these years in Milwaukee? Because the Milwaukee didn't have, and to Mayor Gamba's credit, which is great, because if I mentioned it, he would key off that. He was instrumental in trying to get the public to turn that ship around so that we could build the Hillside. But we have built a lot of housing, and we run into snags, right? And the point is that, one district could say, nope, we can't approve that or delay it, and that just, again, exacerbates, and we are the one on the hook, not a district or not a city or anything else. So we've got a unique experience because we're building a lot, we built a lot, and we ran into some of these glitches. I have no doubt that there have been situations where either the county or other jurisdictions have hung up or forgotten or maybe made an error and it caused a delay. I know that happens. That's why we're here, right? But I think we've been, since I've been here, we've been worked hard to expedite, and you don't become one of the counties with the fastest growing cities if you got a hang up with planning and permitting, right? So we've done a pretty good job. But all that said, I couldn't help but think, and I'll close with this, is that it's too much regulation is what slows these things down. It's the regulations that our staff are working in. It's untenable. And they're piling it on. So just think if we had half the regulations, our staff would have half the work to do, and it would go along faster. So we are a victim of the circumstances. We're following state law, and they keep on changing the state law. And our staff are constantly updating our code because of legislative changes, and they need to recognize that's part of the problem. I said a lot. I'll leave it there. Chair, back to you.
All right, thank you. Seeing no other comments, there's no action for us today on this item, but I appreciate both of you coming here and being willing to answer questions. And it is really important developments as things kind of move forward. So with that, we'll move on, and I'll turn to Gary as to what's next on the agenda. Thank you both.
Thank you. Next is broadband grant application letters of support. There are 3 letters of support for your consideration in your packet. They are all related to Oregon Broadband Equity Access Deployment Grants, or BEAD, B-E-A-D grants. These are to help expand telecommunications internet service provider for underserved areas in Oregon. It's a statewide grant program, and there are 3 entities in Clackamas County that is asking for a letter of support from you. One is Astound Communications here in Clackamas County, and Ziply Fiber for their business in Clackamas County, and Clackamas Broadband Exchange, our own internal internet service provider access organization. There is enough money from the state that all 3 of these grants can be awarded. We are not competing against each other. And it is helpful to have a grant letter from the local county government for these applications. So I'm seeking your approval, please, of these 3 support letters, or if you wish to make any edits, but that is the request today, please.
All right, thank you, Gary. Colleagues, any comments on the letters? Seeing none, may I have a motion?
Chair, I move that we approve the broadband grant application letters of support that were just presented.
Second.
All right, Commissioner West has moved to approve the 3 broadband grant application letters of support. Commissioner Savas has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Gary, what is next? on our-
Next, review of your business meeting agenda for this Thursday, May 8, 2025 at 10 a.m. You'll have public communication, a short consent agenda list, and then commissioner communications. If you have any question on any of these consent agenda items, would you please let me know prior to Thursday so that I may have staff in the room to answer your questions for you. But that's it. So thank you. Final issues are short today. Final item for issues is commissioner communications. You do have 2 policy sessions following issues. Go ahead, Chair.
Right. Thank you, Gary. Commissioner Savas, on communication, would you like to make a comment?
I don't have anything that's urgent.
All right, thank you. Commissioner West?
I'm going to pass. Yes, but I'm going to hold. I'm going to hold steady. I'm going to hold for now.
Right, yeah. And I will go ahead and pass it this time as well. So if there's no other matters, this concludes today's administrative issues and updates. We'll now begin our first policy session of the day. Gary, would you please introduce the policy session for us?
Yes, thank you, Chair. First policy session today is Main Street Courthouse, requests for expressions of interest, committee recommendation, and update. We have the team from County Administration to present: Nancy Bush, County Operating Officer, and Tony Marinick, Policy Advisor. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So today we're here to talk to you about the RFEI, which is a request for expressions of interest for the old courthouse, the Main Street Courthouse, which we are currently moving out of and into the new one. We got one proposal and that we've come together with the committee that looked at the proposals. We have a recommendation from them as well. And we just kind of want to go through that with you today and then talk to you about our next steps and what our recommendations are for that. So I'm going to have Tony fill you in on everything, and then we can get to our recommendations.
Chair Smith, Commissioners, apologies, Chair Roberts, Commissioners.
The second one, you're the second staff member that did that now.
Shows how long this discussion has been going on for, Chair. These conversations began in April of 2024 with discussions around utilization of the Main Street Courthouse. In July 2024, a committee was convened to make a recommendation to the board on what to do with the old courthouse. That committee recommended that the board sell or transfer the courthouse to an entity that would fully contribute to the economic vitality of the downtown Oregon City area. The previous board then directed staff to undertake a request for expressions of interest process, and that process concluded here in the last few weeks. We've been working on it for a while now. I wanted to lay a little bit of the groundwork about the work that was done to publicize the RFEI, because I think it's important to set the context of the one proposal we received in the context of all of the work that was done to put the word out about this request. First, though, I do want to clarify for folks that are listening online, a request for expressions of interest, we're asking for ideas. We are not asking for firm proposals. We're not asking for execution-ready contracts. We were asking the world, hey, what do you think we should do with the old courthouse? That request for expressions of interest went out to a number of entities, including our Clackamas County website, the Daily Journal of Commerce, the Portland Business Tribune, OregonBuys.gov, which most Oregon local governments do their procurement processing through Oregon Buys. Approximately 180 firms received this request for expressions of interest directly because they indicated they were interested in certain types of projects. Additionally, our Office of Economic Development was kind enough to do some work on their own. They put it out on LoopNet, a commercial real estate listing service, sent it directly to a distribution list of about 450 regional commercial real estate development firms, and also reached out directly to 2 historic redevelopment firms that the Office of Economic Development has done work with in the past. Out of all of that work that was done to get this out, we also sent it out to, I would say, the Oregon City Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Oregon City Association, Two Rivers Neighborhood Association, Clackamas County Business Alliance. I am confident I am forgetting some of the partners that have received an email from me about this project and trying to remember all of them. Out of all of that work, we received exactly one indication of interest, and that is from the proposer Level Development Northwest. Level Development Northwest is proposing to demolish the existing courthouse and construct a new 5-story building on the site that would have approximately 84 residential units, mix of studio to 2-bedroom units, and a ground floor commercial space. They are also proposing as part of this to retain and potentially expand Liberty Plaza, which has been of interest to some of our partners. They are proposing to add a basement level parking where staff are currently working in the courthouse would be parking, approximately 45 parking spaces, adding additional surface level parking to what is where the sheriff's office currently parks their vehicles. And at some point in the future, once an agreement is reached with the city, dedicating Liberty Plaza to the city. As part of this proposal, they would be retaining certain historic elements of the current building, including the bronze trim, some of the architectural stonework chevrons that separate the 2nd and 3rd floor, carved figures that are on the front and side of the building, bronze trim work, the oak doors. A number of elements would be retained and either reused in the existing building or into a monument, if you will, that would be established in Liberty Plaza to commemorate the historic significance of the courthouse. With that, I'm happy to yield to any questions.
Colleagues, questions? Commissioner West.
Is it, if I think about it, there's not a lot of residential in that Main Street area. When I think about other Main Street areas, throughout Clackamas County, there tends to be some residential element, which maybe brings more consistent business even into the evening, even into the weekends that may not have been there in Main Street currently. Is it common, is my understanding that correctly, that Oregon City doesn't have a ton of residential to kind of diversify the population on its Main Street? And is that unusual for a Main Street within a city of that size?
I would say that Oregon City does not currently have any residential housing in the downtown Oregon City area. As to whether or not that's unusual, I don't have enough evidence, but I would say anecdotally it is unique amongst Oregon cities that
Okay.
they do not have any residential housing in the downtown Oregon City area.
It sounds like parking has been an issue. I mean, I've been down there, we've all been down there. Parking's an issue. We all know parking's an issue. And so this looks to mitigate some of that. Can you reiterate, I think you said there'd be some surface level. Where is the 45 other parking spots going?
Commissioner, if you're familiar with the current courthouse, the staff work in a daylight basement space. That space would become underground parking.
Yeah, okay.
So effectively, the building is 6 stories. There's 5 stories at Main Street level. And
Yeah,
then
it's
the
scary down there.
So we would be adding approximately 45 spaces. It would depend precisely on configuration of the spaces. We would also be adding approximately 9 spaces to the surface lot that is on the block where the sheriff's office currently parks all their vehicles next to what is currently a McMinimans. In addition to that, some parking that is on 8th Street that is currently reserved to courthouse functions because parking is very difficult, would be turned back into public parking.
Okay. Also, what is the tax revenue coming back onto the rolls with this proposal? Do we have an estimate?
I would offer an estimate. The estimate is, for the first 10 years or so, we would be looking at about $60,000 a year. The reason for that is that as part of this proposal, they would be pursuing the vertical housing development zone credits from the city of Oregon City. After that vertical housing development zone expires, we would be looking at approximately $325,000 a year for all of the taxing districts. That, of course, will ultimately depend on final assessed value of the property and assessment rates at the time.
Is that a 10-year tax abatement?
It is, yes.
Okay, for the vertical housing 10-year tax abatement. Okay. And what is being done about, how is the erosion being addressed? I think there's less than 4 feet between the riverbank and the existing courthouse. Do we have any, how is that being managed?
A portion of their effort in building this property is going to be going into the geotechnical stabilization of the site. And so they are going to be doing some work because in order for them to build anything on it, they are going to have to address the soil situation at the site.
Okay, and we have the big Cascadia projection in the next 50 years, right? And so considering the mason brick building that's there now, I'm assuming that would not be very resilient against an earthquake. But I think much of Oregon City and a lot of its older buildings wouldn't be much of a resistance to earthquakes. So this would be, I'm guessing, resilient to some type of event like that. And then comparatively, do we know how old the courthouse is compared to all the other older buildings in Oregon City?
I would offer that the new building would be more resilient, but I would offer that that's only from the baseline of the fact that the current building would not survive a Cascadia subduction zone event.
Okay. And comparatively, there's a lot of very old buildings in Oregon City. And so where is the courthouse comparatively to some of the older buildings, the current courthouse?
Downtown Oregon City area benefits from a great deal of historic properties. I would say it's typical of its age with the rest of this downtown Oregon area.
Okay. Are there a number of buildings that are much older than the courthouse? Like a lot?
There are a few, I would say.
Yeah, we could find that out for sure.
Okay, I'm just curious comparatively.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think this has been a great proposal. I think the proposal is super well done. I think it meets a unique need that we have in Main Street that doesn't exist there now. I think it shows some resiliency in case of a Cascadia event. So I'm supportive of this. I think it's been a really good proposal. I like to see it back on the tax rolls too. So thank you.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, it answers a lot of the either questions or challenges of downtown Oregon City with parking, which is huge, and offers some retail space down below as proposed. It's transit nearby. It delivers a population that will, be, shopping and seeking, dinners, lunches, breakfast. I mean, there's just a lot of opportunity with this, with bringing that kind of development and population that are there, going to be there, 7 days a week, every day of the year. So it seems to really hit all the right notes here. Of course, I think having the public process and hearing the input from everyone else would maybe help inform us at maybe some areas that are maybe lacking, or maybe some issues that are still challenging. But I'm really impressed with the proposal. I would definitely support, again, a public comment period, just to get this out there. This is a big deal. But at the face of it, I like it.
All right, thank you. Just a couple questions. One of which is can you talk about the Holman building and the plans for it, and how that is going to relate to this new building?
Of course, the Holman building, the Ralph Holman building, currently houses the law library, at least for the next handful of hours until they move out. That building will be repurposed to support children, family, community connection. Staff will be moving into that site. It also hosts some county infrastructure that would be difficult to move in terms of our computer networking. And so we are planning to remain in that site for the foreseeable future.
Okay, great. As far as the proposal, it's definitely very interesting. I know you guys did a great job getting the word out. I'm a little disappointed there was only one, but I want to give you accolades for doing the reach out. It's kind of a unique project, so I'm really looking forward to hearing citizen input about their thoughts. It's really a big part of the community. So. Anyway, with that presentation, any other questions, colleagues? If not, I'll entertain a motion for kind of next steps.
I move we direct staff to schedule an opportunity for public comment on the advisory committee's recommendation at a business meeting.
I will second.
All right, Commissioner Savas has moved to direct staff to schedule an opportunity for public comment on the advisory committee's recommendation at a business meeting. Commissioner West has seconded that motion. Any further discussion?
Just one thing, Chair. One thing I forgot to mention was that I read in here in this proposal that they want to retain some of the historic elements, and I thought that was super cool. So again, to what degree that is, in more detail, we'll dig in on that, but I just want to make that mention. That's another key issue that's been brought up.
All right. Seeing any other discussion, Clerk, would you please call the poll?
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you. Gary, what is next?
Thank you. Your next and final policy session today is removing personnel policy language from the Clackamas County Code. The Human Resources team will present Evelyn Minor-Lawrence, Director of Human Resources, and Heather Pedersen, Deputy Director of Human Resources. Please come forward and go ahead, please.
Morning.
Good morning, you two.
Good morning. Okay. I'll start. Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. We're coming before you to request your approval to remove the personnel ordinance from county code and replacing those with HR policies. And the reason for that is that when the county code was put in place, Clackamas County was a civil service organization, and we're no longer a civil service organization. In the code currently, there are many of the codes that are in conflict with some of the personnel policies that we've developed over the years. As the laws change and we put in new personnel policies, we're not able to really implement those policies because the policy is in a code, and that in itself is a law, so that takes precedence over any new policies that we put in place. And we're finding that it's becoming more and more of a problem. It's creating barriers for us in terms of attracting and hiring applicants. We are also finding that we can't keep pace with the changing employment laws because there's a very different process to update the policies, so they're not really talking to each other. So we're here to ask that you approve our ability to take the personnel codes out of the ordinance and integrate them more into our personnel policies. Most organizations don't have personnel policies in their code. Today, we want to particularly bring to your attention two policies that are causing conflicts for us that are tied to the Oregon Equal Pay Act and the Oregon Paid Family Medical Leave. And I'll have Heather go through that.
Okay, actually, the two articles within the personal ordinance that we're looking at today to request your removal of from code are related to the extended sick leave section as well as veterans preference. So specifically, the extended sick leave section is or was related to a policy, a longstanding policy of the county. The particular policy, or EPP, Employee Policy and Procedure, was archived last year in June, and that particular policy allowed the county departments to grant extended leaves of absences to employees up to 90 days if they were not able to return to work following a protected leave. Since that time, there have been multiple new state laws that have provided some extended paid time to employees since this policy was enacted. So really, they don't need this particular offering from the county anymore because of the additional protected leaves that we have, including, obviously family medical leave and the Oregon paid family leave. So that policy was archived. However, the language still exists in county code. And so until it's removed from county code, we have to still offer it. So we are requesting your approval to remove section 2.05.160.4 related to extended leave, and that will, removing that language will make us consistent. And then the second part of code that we're requesting your removal of today is related to veterans preference points. The county code is very, the language is very minimal. So the policy, the EPP 43 regarding veterans preference has been updated recently. It's much more robust, describes the law, describes our process. And so we're just requesting removal from county code because it is a little confusing to have such a brief mention in code as opposed to our more robust policy. So those are the two areas that we're asking for your approval today. And then as we update policies or create new policies that have some language that also would be in code, we'd be coming to you periodically to request your removal. And the crosswalk that we provided would be something that we would be sharing with you every time, so you know what language we're requesting your removal of and how it's being replaced in our EPPs, our employee policies and procedures.
Great, thank you. Colleagues, questions? Commissioner West.
Thank you. Evelyn, thank you. You talked about how we're not a civil service organization any longer.
Yes.
What are we and what is the difference?
That's a good question. We don't have a civil service board. If you look at the We gave you a little bit of a history, took us down history. In 1961, the county voted to adopt a civil service system. And the way a civil service system works, usually there is a committee that reviews all of your jobs. You have to maintain lists when applicants are hired. So that's really what it is. And then we had a committee in 1990 that was reviewing all of our personnel policies, and then that was replaced. That replaced the civil service system. So we got rid of the civil service system in 1990 and was using the committee to do that. Then in 92, the Civil Service Act, that was repealed, and the personnel ordinance was put in place.
Okay.
And so today, where we are now is we have the personnel ordinance. It's really it's a law that we have to follow. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, vaguely. And you're talking about making these policy adjustments and these changes today, and that's because we're a statutory county, and much of this is governed by state law, am I correct, around personnel issues?
Yes.
And so we're becoming more aligned with the statutes that govern us.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Right. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, so just so it's clear, I mean, it's clear in the memo, and you've said it, we're replacing some of this language and put in the EPP. Get
Yes.
that? Overall, we are removing this, but in essence, we are updating and upgrading, so to speak, our current system, essentially, right? I'm just trying to get a public message out over there, because the words remove, we're all replacing it, but that's not per se, crystal clear in the motion.
Mm-hmm.
So if I was to add verbiage in the motion, I'd like to say that we are updating somehow in the motion, that we are updating the code and replacing critical language. So I kind of looking a little bit at legal counsel, just so the motion's clear and it's not misinterpreted in the future.
Okay. So for today or going forward, you're going to be removing certain elements from the code, but the idea ultimately is to repeal the code, but that's not the motion you're going to be making
Today.
today?
Correct.
Okay.
Today, we want to address those two policies.
Right.
Okay. Then, yes, I think we can clean up that language.
Gary?
I would suggest the end of the end of the existing motion could say, "and replacing with county policies." So you're removing the two sections from the code and replacing with county policies.
Right,
To
'cause we're-
demonstrate it's not going away, it's going from an ordinance to a policy.
Jane, are you okay with that?
I would say, in replacing the code language with county policies. So it doesn't seem like it's going to go in the code.
Okay. Right. Chair, I'm going to take a stab at this. I move we allow the removal of section 2.05.160.4, extended sick leave, and section 2.05070.17, veterans preference, from county code, and replacing code language with county policies.
I will second.
All right. If I get this correct, Commissioner Savis has moved to allow the removal of section 2.05.160.4, extended sick leave, and section 2.05.070.17, veterans preference, from county code, and replacing code with county policy. Commissioner West has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? I would just like to make a couple comments on this as just kind of further discussion is really, I want to commend both of you on this, that updating policy is not glamorous and exciting. It's hard work, and it really raises the bar for organizations. So I want to just commend you for that work. I know formerly as a sheriff, we worked hard to get our policies updated, to get accredited, and it's a lot of hard work. And it's, again, I can say it's not exciting, but what it is really benefit for the direction for an organization as big as we are. It's just, to both of you, my thanks, and I want you to know how important it is. So the code language really does not align with modern employment best practices, and it's really broad and unclear language and can lead to really misinterpretation. So doing this is a great direction for the county. So that was just my comment. And looks like Commissioner Savas has a comment as well.
I just want to just build on that. I mean, you know, it's relevant to our prior conversation about Senate Bill 974 and all the legislative changes and law changes. We're constantly updating everything in planning departments, and this is, you know, virtually the same thing.
Yeah.
So, and I was sitting in the hearing room in Salem yesterday just thinking about how complex our government has become, and it is complicated. And I over the years, Heather, Evelyn, both of you, I really appreciate your ability to navigate these wickedly complicated, overlapping, conflicting, sometimes unclear situations that we have, whether it's related to this or others. So thank goodness we got you all here, because I don't see how the board would get through it. So you're very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Clerk, would you please call the poll for us?
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our last policy session for the day. On behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, thank you for all joining us today, and we are now officially adjourned.